Hello and welcome to the Literary Lair. Let's talk about MASH. MASH was a television show from the 70s that was one of the longest running television shows of its time. It starred Alan Alda as Captain Hawkeye Pierce, and it was a great series, with a not-so-great spinoff. But Michael, you're saying, this is the Literary Lair, so you can't talk about a television show. You're right. We're not here to talk about the show. So let's talk about the movie that the show was adapted from, which had Donald Sutherland as Hawkeye Pierce and was a great movie. And the movie was adapted from a book called MASH, a novel about 3 army doctors. Is the book as good as the film or the television show? Let's find out. Wait, what's that? Do I hear choppers? The cover is bland, but I'm not holding that against the book. It's a book about army doctors. What can they put on the cover? A picture of surgery? So, let's get to the book. We start in the 4077th MASH and learn about Corporal Radar O'Reilly, played by Gary Berghoff in the film and the show, who has a very special gift of impeccable hearing, which he uses to know when choppers with wounded soldiers are about to show up, and is currently using it to eavesdrop on a conversation between Colonel Blake and General Hammond about getting 2 new surgeons for the 4077. These 2 new surgeons turn out to be Captains Hawkeye Pierce and Duke Forrest, who meet up at the 325th Evac Hospital and start their drive to the 4077. On the drive, they learn that despite growing up in 2 different parts of the USA, Hawkeye being from Crabapple Cove, Maine, and Forrest being from Forest City, Georgia, they have a lot in common. When they arrive at the camp, they don't go straight to Colonel Blake, as is expected of them. They instead go to the mess tent for some lunch. While eating, they get to meet Colonel Henry Blake, who was played by Roger Bowen in the film and McLean Stevenson in the show. And after Duke tries to woo a married lieutenant, they are shown to their tent and introduced to their roommate, Major Hobson, who doesn't exist in the show or the film. He was merged with Frank Burns, played by Larry Linville in the show. His constant praying gets on the nerves of Hawkeye and Duke, so they go to Henry and have him remove Hobson from their tent, affectionately called the Swamp. When they realize Henry's a pushover, they also ask for a new chest cutter, which Henry obliges. Eventually, Hobson's praying annoys everyone at camp, and they send him stateside. Soon after, the new chest cutter arrives. Captain John McIntyre, who says nothing about himself except for a few words, keeps himself wrapped in a parka, and keeps a jar of olives with him at all times. Eventually, Hawkeye realizes that McIntyre is Trapper John McIntyre, a surgeon who went to a rival college of the one that Hawkeye went to. He earned his nickname in a bit of a skeevy way, but keep in mind this was written with the mindset of someone in the late 1960s. Trapper is, and I quote, the only man in history who took a piece in the ladies' can of a Boston and Maine train. When the conductor caught him in there with his winter carnival date, she screamed, "He trapped me," and that's how he got his name. He was played by Elliot Gould in the film, Wayne Rogers in the show, and Pernell Roberts in Trapper John M.D. The surgeons soon get into a bad spot with the Protestant chaplain nicknamed Shaking Sammy because he shakes hands. A lot. He has a habit of writing letters to wounded soldiers' families saying that they're alright when in fact they're dying. So, in order to keep him away, they tie him to a wooden cross and put him in Father Mulcahy's tent, nicknamed Dago Red in this and played by future Star Trek DS9 alum Renee Auberjonois in the film and William Christopher in the show, and tell Sammy that they plan to sacrifice him by burning him alive. After that, the camp dentist, Captain Waldowski, nicknamed the Painless Pole, who has a pool table and a poker table, and is the best equipped dentist in the army, becomes depressed and decides to commit suicide. The swamp men decide to give him a black capsule to knock him out, which is actually a really good sleeping pill. Then a mock Last Supper is arranged and everyone bids him farewell. They hold a funeral, and the next day he's feeling better and ready for a game of poker. This is where I think they got the title for the MASH theme song, Suicide is Painless, because Painless wants to commit suicide. The Swampmen disagree with Major Frank Burns on a lot of things, because Frank's patients tend to die, and when they do, he either blames someone else or says it's God's will. On one such occasion, he blames it on a young doctor who's dumb enough to believe Frank, and in retaliation, both Trapper and Duke sock him in the face, with Trapper getting caught by both Henry and the new chief nurse, Margaret Houlihan, played by Sally Kellerman in the film, and Loretta Swit in the TV show. Also, Trapper gets named chief surgeon. And the night it happens, Henry goes off base to meet with General Hammond, and so Frank and Margaret are in charge. One thing leads to another, and Frank and Margaret sleep together, but Trapper puts a mic in their tent, and their escapades are known by the whole camp.
His will be done. Oh, Frank, my lips are hot. Frank, oh.
What the hell is that?
Oh, Frank. Wait a second.
What is it?
Turn the light off. No, that's off.
Humiliating them both, and causing Frank to go ballistic and attack Hawkeye when he asks how Houlihan was in bed, causing him to be sent stateside. It also led to Margaret's infamous nickname, Hot Lips, and to one of the best lines of the book. Duke says to Henry, "Henry, if I get in the Hot Lips and jump Hawkeye, can I go home too?" Soon after, they decide to let their Korean houseboy, Ho-Jon, have a better life by sending him to Androscoggin College, Hawkeye's alma mater. They scrape up the cash using a scheme to sell autographed pictures of Jesus Christ. Turns out Trapper looks like Jesus Christ when he grows out his beard, and so they go around selling pictures to pay for Ho-Jon's schooling. After Ho-Jon leaves, Trapper gets orders to go to Kokura, Japan to operate on a congressman's son. They go to Japan intending to operate on the kid, then go straight to the Kokura Open Golf Tournament using one of Hawkeye's old gags, the Pro from Dover gag. You see, Hawkeye would go to a golf course and go into the pro shop and get a free game by claiming to be the Pro from Dover, which usually worked for him. When they get to the hospital, we get a humorous scene of Trapper and Hawk running afoul of the staff, including getting in trouble with Colonel Merrill.
Look, Mother, I want to go to work in 1 hour. We are the pros from Dover. And then give me at least one nurse who knows how to work in close without getting her tits in my way.
Somebody get that dirty old man out of this operating theater.
The commander of the hospital. They run into an old associate of Hawkeye's, Captain Ezekiel Bradbury Marston IV, better known as Melee Marston, due to his catchphrase of "Melee, you lay all the girls in town." They have fun, but a crisis arises at Milei's other job at Dr. Yamamoto's finest kind pediatric hospital and whorehouse, where a sick, half-Japanese, half-American GI is ill. They appropriate the hospital for their use by blackmailing Colonel Merrill when they anesthetize him and take photos of him with a Japanese whore. They qualify for the tournament and have Melee adopt the baby so they can send it to America. When they arrive back at the 4077, they enter a 2-week kick of overwhelming casualties. This leads the doctors to drink and to harass Hot Lips. When they push her too far, she complains to General Hammond, but the Swamp Men, Hawkeye, Trapper, and Duke, talk to General Hammond and smooth things over. Summer arrives, and Henry goes to Tokyo for 3 weeks. He's replaced by Colonel DeLong, and when Hawkeye prepares a wounded soldier for surgery, he doesn't do it fast enough for the Colonel's liking. You see, Hawkeye waits because they need to stabilize him first and get blood into him. Colonel DeLong didn't understand that and thought that Hawkeye was gold bricking, meaning slacking off. When Hawk, Duke, and Trapper get bored, they lead DeLong to believe they need psychiatric help by claiming they're hunting for a mermaid. They're sent to the 325th evac, and while they're there, they escape, and the psychiatrist, accompanied by Henry, finds them at Mrs. Lee's, a nearby whorehouse. Then, in order to raise morale and money, they set up a football game with General Hammond's team. They have an ace in the hole when they ask Henry to get Oliver Jones transferred to the 4077. Oliver Spear Trucker Jones, a pro football player from the 49ers in the MASH universe. They win the game through a combination of good plays and cheating. and they win a nice amount of money that's split with the whole camp. Time drags for Duke and Hawkeye as they wait for their commissions to expire. To pass time, they start to disappear for days at a time, leading to problems for Henry. To keep them busy, Henry has them train the new recruits, Captain Pinkham and Russell, in the shortcuts of meatball surgery. Since as surgeons, they're taught in med school to take it slow and do things right, when in wartime, with 50 casualties waiting for the table, you gotta cut corners somewhere. The recruits do well, but Captain Pinkham's wife has a mental breakdown, and so he's sent home, leading Duke and Hawkeye to write letters to their wives saying, if you really love me, you'll go crazy and tell the Red Cross so they'll send me home. Eventually, when the time comes for Duke and Hawkeye to go home, everyone crowds into the swamp for a farewell drink. The two continue to drink and cause trouble all the way home by feigning battle fatigue to scare new recruits, impersonating chaplains to get out of working short-arm inspection, which I didn't understand at first, and then I looked it up, and I totally get it. And harassing an airline stewardess when she tells them not to drink on the plane. They part ways in Chicago and rejoin their families. And that was MASH. It was a great book, although it is a bit problematic when looked at through the lens of someone from 2014. The movie is the same, but the show, especially in the later seasons when Alan Alda took over the creative control, the show became a lot more progressive, with all the problematic behavior put into the antagonists into the show, like Frank and Charles Winchester. All in all, it's a great book, and I happen to love it. Anyway...
Attention, all personnel! Incoming choppers with wounded!
Well, looks like I'm needed elsewhere. See you next time. Nurse, I need more suction. Yes, doctor. Live, damn it, live. Is you going to live, doctor? What's my official diagnosis? Needs more mayo.